High school sports, we've got it covered. Overtime starts now.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another playoff edition of Overtime. I'm Scott Leber.
And I'm David Greenberg. It's week 2 of the postseason, and it's great that so many of our local football teams are still involved. Tomorrow will be a super Saturday with all of those matchups.
Tonight, we're going to preview those games, including a look at the Lena Winslow Forreston game and the incredible rivalry between these two programs. In our Spotlight segment, we'll feature the Bensons of Lena Winslow, quarterback Luke and his father, offensive coordinator Kyle Benson.
Tim Bailey's also here to talk Nick 10 football. We have 3 Nick 10 teams still alive in the playoffs. Also bring you our Fab 5 players for this season.
Well, most of the weak teams in the playoffs were weeded out in the first round. From here on out, we're going to see mostly blockbuster matchups like the one in Pecatonica tomorrow afternoon.
And the Dupec Rivermen will host Elmhurst Immaculate Conception, or IC Catholic. This is a Class 3A game. IC Catholic finished the regular season ranked number 1 in the state. The Knights are a powerhouse football program. They won 3 consecutive state championships from 2016 through 2018. The Rivermen respect the Knights, but they don't fear them. Dupec has lost only 1 game this season. That was the number 1 team in Class 2A, St. Teresa. They believe the experience of that game will help them tomorrow.
Oh yeah, it definitely matches up with tough opponents like that, so we know what it's going to be like and how the atmosphere is going to be like and what we need to bring to the table.
It's just on to the next. We got to stay focused. We can't get too high off that win. It's just 1 week at a time every week.
So when you guys come away with a win on
I like your thinking. Yeah.
Friday or Saturday, what do you think is going to be the difference maker?
I think for us, it's just going to be the physicality. For us, we've just got to have that. We've been using that fighter mentality. We just got to keep exchanging blows with them, and play physical football, hoping that sooner or later they're going to get sick and tired of us.
I can't wait for that game. Well, all playoff games are big. Some just feel a little bigger than others, like the game tomorrow night in Forreston. The Cardinals will host NUIC rival Lena Winslow. It's another in a long line of high-stakes showdowns between these two programs. It's probably the best rivalry in Illinois over the past decade, at least at the small school level. When Lena Winslow and Forreston play each other, there's usually something big on the line.
There's some statistic, 7 of the last 10 times going to state is Forreston or Lena, so obviously coming in as a senior, I know it's a huge deal.
Fiorello is right. These two schools have won 7 of the last 10 state championships in Class 1A, going back to Lee Wynn's first championship team in 2010. The Panthers have 4 titles, the Cardinals have 3. These two schools have also won 6 of the last 7 state championships in 1A. The rivalry, of course, goes back much further than the last decade.
When I first started here, Greg Wood was the head coach, and Greg had taken a program that had seen some lean years and really brought it back into being a contender. The rivalry itself that has stayed intact for almost 25 years, and it'll be there long after I'm gone. It'll be there long after Coach Janicki's gone.
They have such a great program and their coaching staff. They do things the right way, and they've had a ton of success in the last just in the last decade. So to have that rivalry and to say that we're in that conversation with them in the last 10 years, it's really cool.
Since 2010, these two schools have met 4 times in the playoffs. Lee Wynn won a first-round game in 2010, 40-20. Forreston won a quarterfinal game in 2016, 44-7. Lee Wynn won a semifinal nail-biter in 2017, 12-8. And Forreston won a semifinal game in 2018, 34-28. The latest thriller between these two schools was just 2 weeks ago, the final game of the regular season at Lena Winslow. The Panthers led most of the game, but Forreston put together an epic 89-yard drive and scored on a 1-yard touchdown on 4th down on the final play of the game to win it 22-20.
Yeah, that was tremendous. I think it tells a story of what kind of kids we have here at Forreston and their will to fight and their will to keep grinding even when things are tough.
All the conversions they made, 3rd down conversions, 4th down conversions, probably, especially on the losing side of it, the greatest drive I've ever been part of.
How weird is it to have to turn right around and play them again so soon, huh?
Well, we know, like I said, they like to compete, and we know what we're getting into. We know they're a tough team.
Every time we come together, we just go out, we play, put on a show, run the ball a lot, and it's a pretty physical game. A lot of times that's kind of what determines the game.
Eventually you knew that if you want to win and you want to go all the way, you're going to have to face each other again.
The momentum of winning 2 weeks ago probably still sits, in the favor of Forreston, I think. But, I don't know. We're just going to We're just going to go about it as it's another opportunity. It's a playoff atmosphere now, so it kind of just takes it to a whole different level.
That's a 6 o'clock kickoff in Forreston.
Yeah, chances are it's going to be another down-to-the-wire one like we saw a couple of weeks ago. Well, in Byron tomorrow afternoon, the Tigers will try to run their record to 11-0. They'll host the Lisle Lions in a Class 3A game. So it's the Lions against the Tigers. Lisle's record 7-3. The Lions finished in 4th place in the Illinois Central 8 Conference. Stillman Valley's coming off an impressive Round 1 win last week against Hyde Park in Class 4A. The Cardinals have a much tougher assignment tomorrow. They'll play at undefeated Richmond Burton. Richmond Burton hasn't lost a game since the 2018 season. The Rockets were state champs 2 years ago.
A third Big Northern team will also take the field tomorrow. Genoa Kingston will host Wheaton St. Francis. The St. Francis Spartans are 8-2. They played a rugged regular season schedule that included 7 teams that wound up in the playoffs.
There's 8-man playoff football tomorrow as well. What a year it's been for South Beloit and for first-year head coach Jim Morrow. He's helped lead the Sobos to a 6-4 record, the most wins South Beloit has had since 2003 when the Sobos won the program's only state championship. Tomorrow, we'll have a home playoff game for the first time in nearly 20 years when they host West Central.
It's been a lot of fun, and we're having some success, so that really kind of just certifies everything. It was a great move for me to do, and we're doing some great things here and hopefully continuing our run.
It's just like a lot of focus. Like all I got on my mind is West Central. That's all going through my head this whole week.
Also in the 8-man playoffs tomorrow, Polo will host Milford Cissna Park, Orangeville will host Martinsville, and Milledgeville will play at Amboy.
There was one playoff game played tonight of local interest in Chicago. Rochelle lost to St. Patrick 21-14.
We focused on the Nick 10 next.
Boylan, Hononegah, Harlem, they're all going to take the field. You're watching a playoff edition of Overtime.
Well, 3 Nick 10 teams made it through the first round of the playoffs. They'll all be in action tomorrow.
One will be the Boylan Titans. They'll host Oak Park Fenwick in Class 5A. These two schools have a bit of a history. In 2012, they met in the second round of the playoffs at Boylan. The Titans had an incredible comeback. They trailed by 7 points with only seconds to play. Fenwick had to punt. Peter Semino fielded it for Boylan at his own 10, and he returned it 90 yards for a touchdown as time expired. The Titans then converted a 2-point conversion with no time on the clock to win it by a point, 22-21. You can bet the people of Fenwick haven't forgotten that. This year, the Friars are 8-2. They were ranked number 1 in the state in Class 5A in the final AP poll. They have 4 players who have committed to D1 colleges, including their quarterback, Kaden Cobb, who's headed to Ball State.
Good-looking quarterback who's got a lot of offers, and he's left-handed, so he reminds you a little bit of the Alabama version of Tua. I mean, he's good with his feet. He's good throwing the ball.
Their offensive line definitely stands out. They got size in their offensive line, but we've been playing undersized this whole year, so we've gotten used to it at this point. So we're ready to see where we compete at.
Let's discuss this one further with our Nick 10 analyst, Tim Bailey. Tim, impressive win by the Titans last week at Chicago Brooks, but Fenwick's in a whole different stratosphere.
Yes, it is, Scott. It's a different ball game with Fenwick, just with the size and the physicality that they play with both offensively and defensively. I think Boylan's going to be up for the challenge tomorrow, but I think it's going to be a really good game on both sides of the ball.
Absolutely, and they've been playing well. They've won their last 4 games despite all injuries and everything like that. What do they have to do tomorrow against a really good team to come away with a win?
Well, they have to establish both, the run game and the passing game, I think, tomorrow against a good, solid team like Fenwick. If Apino's going to be the quarterback tomorrow night, he's going to have to really control that offense and make sure the ball is moving in the right direction, picking up positive yards. So some other players will have to step up too. If Apino's at the quarterback, somebody's going to have to fill that void at receiver. Who that is yet to be determined. So that's what they're going to have to do to really see a good game here against Fenwick.
Yeah, they're going to have to bring their A game, and as they say, your playmakers have to make plays in the big game.
Yes.
Another Nick 10 team in action tomorrow afternoon will be the Harlem Huskies. They will host Lake Forest in Class 6A. Lake Forest was 7th in the final state rankings, 1 spot ahead of the Huskies. The Huskies have taken no prisoners since their Week 1 loss to Hononegah. Last week, they outscored Crystal Lake South 64-39. Tim, The Huskies just keep getting better and better, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And it's a good time. We're seeing the progression, that these guys, the strides that they're making week to week to week. Now they're going into the second round. They're up for a challenge tomorrow too against Lake Forest. Lake Forest is no slouch. Big boys on both sides of the ball. They do a lot of things well. I think Harlem's going to step up to the challenge, and I think this game is going to be closer than a lot of people think.
In the final Nick 10 game tomorrow, Hononegah will try to advance to the third round in Class 7A. The Indians will be home again, hosting 8-2 Pekin. The Dragons finished in third place in the Mid-Illini Conference this season. They beat Libertyville last week. Hononegah might have played its best game of the season last week, where it outscored Plainfield 53-29. Tim, the Indians, they just seem to be peaking at the right time.
Yeah, they are. I think what they're doing offensively is great. Hononegah's got some playmakers on that offensive side of the ball with Wisenhand and the crew. So I look for those guys to continue to move forward through the playoffs. It's going to be a tough challenge. Pekin won't be a cupcake. It won't be a walk in the park. But I think Hononegah's going to rise to the challenge. They're at home. When you're at home in the playoffs, you got your crowd behind you. You just got a lot of things going for you. You're excited, and you want to win at home.
Absolutely.
I thought their offense last week was the best I've seen them play this year. They really had the run game going nicely. Tim, we are going to have you back in a little bit later to discuss our Fab 5 player picks for the Nick 10. All right, so stick around.
But up next, our Overtime Spotlight segment focused on a father-son duo at Lena Winslow that has dedicated itself to Panther football for many years.
Quarterbacking Lena Winslow football teams runs in the Benson family. 3 of them have done it. 2 of them are a big part of Lee Wynn's playoff football team this season. We focus on them in our Overtime Spotlight segment.
Come on, Block, let's go!
Senior Luke Benson is Lee Wynn's starting quarterback. He's in his 3rd season as the Panthers starter. His dad, Kyle, is the Panthers offensive coordinator. After every offensive play, Luke runs to the sideline to get the next play from his father.
Do you ever offer him a suggestion and like, hey, Dad, I think this play might work?
Once in a while.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
As he's gotten older, I would say this year more so than the first 2 years, he's come over and he doesn't, give suggestions to benefit necessarily himself, but he's out there, he sees what's going on, and with his experience, I trust him.
Luke has been around Lena Winslow football most of his life. He began as a ball boy.
I started out in 1st grade till about 6th grade maybe, and I just took care of the footballs, gave them to the refs whenever it was time.
Did you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, I loved it. It was awesome.
He'd come out to practice every day for about 5 minutes after school, waiting for his mom to leave school, and he'd come out and chuck the ball around with the older guys, and they'd run routes for him or he'd run routes for them.
Kyle himself played quarterback for the Panthers in 1988 and 89. Those were times when Lena Winslow was far from a football powerhouse.
When he was quarterback here, they were 0-18.
0-18?
But things have changed.
0-18?
0-18.
What was that like?
Pretty miserable. So it's rewarding to see our program at where it's at now compared to what it was back then.
The 3rd quarterback in the family is Luke's older brother, Cade. His junior year in 2017, Lee Wynn won a state championship. In 2019, Lee Wynn won state again with Luke as the starting quarterback. Kyle Benson was on the coaching staff those years, able to share those championship moments with his sons.
It's very special, something you would never dream of.
So here again, there's a chance to bootleg a little bit.
The Bensons spent a lot of time breaking down game films. Kyle also coaches Luke on the varsity boys basketball team. So when they're at home, they try to leave a lot of that stuff behind at the school.
I think that's the best part about it. We just leave sports where sports are, and at home, it's just home.
In a perfect world, we're player and coach here at school, and we're dad and son at home. I'm not saying that's always the case. We're never perfect at it, but I think that's what works best for us. And every dad who coaches his son has a different dynamic. I don't know that there's one way that it works, but for us, that seems to work the best.
When you're coming off a tough loss, who takes the loss harder, you or your dad? And who gets over it quicker?
That's tough. When I was younger, I'd maybe say him, but now maybe me. So.
You take it harder?
I think I might.
I think Luke's right. I think in the past, maybe it was me. Being a parent has changed me a little bit, to be honest, as a coach, because you get a different perspective. of what kids are going through after a loss. You see how losing makes them feel.
Luke has thrown some great touchdown passes at Lena Winslow, but he doesn't get to show off his passing ability that often. At Lee Win, quarterbacks are more game managers. It's all about the run game.
Getting the running backs the ball is my main job. I'm perfectly fine with it. Whatever gets the win.
We don't have any. We're out.
He's gone from a older boy to a younger man, you know. I'm really proud of him.
It means a lot right now to Kyle and Luke to have this time together, but I'm betting it's going to mean even more to them a few years from now.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe one day we'll see a third-generation Benson playing quarterback for Lena Winslow. Well, Tim Bailey will rejoin us next as we discuss our Fab 5 Nick 10 football players. That's next on Overtime. All right, well, welcome back. Tim Bailey is back with us because we're going to reveal our Fab 5 players for the Nick 10 this season. We each sat down and made our list of the top 5 players, with number 1 being our conference MVP.
And this was not an easy assignment, picking only 5 guys in a 10-team conference. There were a lot of good players to choose from, but hey, let's give it a shot. So, Tim, give us your Fab 5.
Here's my Fab 5 here. I mean, Javius Catlin. I mean, East running back. Kid goes over 1,000 yards. Very elusive when he gets into the open field. He deserved that number 1 spot. He deserved to be in the Fab 5 here. Matt Logan, if you've seen Boiling games this year, you've probably seen number 77 on offense and defense doing his thing. A lot of people are probably surprised, well, why'd you go with a lineman? Well, linemen like love too, so I'm giving this guy some love. Adrian Palos, phenomenal fullback, linebacker, did it on both sides of the ball. You heard his name a lot throughout the actual weeks. Just a phenomenal player. I like to see what he does at the next level. Bryce Goodwin, Hananiga wide receiver DB. We should have kicker in there as well, but we don't. Just a phenomenal athlete, Mr. Utility, Mr. Everything. He does everything for Hananiga. Great player. I like to see what he does at the next level. Isaac Wisenhand, Hananiga quarterback. You know, the stats don't wow you, but if you watch the Hananiga Indians play, and watch how he controls that offense and how he mans that offense and what he does offensively with his legs and with his arm, particularly, you'll understand why he's actually in this Fab 5.
Let's take a look at mine now. Number 1, this is, in my opinion, it's 1A, 1B. I mean, you can't go wrong with either of these guys. I'm going with Palos because 4-year varsity guy, you know, he's just done everything offensively, defensively. He's the leader on both sides of the ball for Harlem. Number 2, Bryce Goodwin, like you touched on, Tim. I mean, wide receiver, DB, kicker. The guy's a three-way player. He does absolutely everything for them. And then I have Matt Logan on there as well. You know, the big guys, they deserve some credit. So I'm going with the
some love. Give them some love.
Yeah, the Boylan lineman, and then Mason Weckler, the quarterback for North. They had a great year this season, and then Catlin as well on my list to round it out.
All right, my Fab 5 got some similar names on there. I'm going with Adrian Palos as my MVP. Could be the MVP of the conference on both sides of the football. Bryce Goodwin, number 2. Matt Logan, we all love Matt Logan, what he does in the trenches. Then I go with DeAndre Young out of Harlem, electrifying running back, DB, kick returner, and Stuart Hale of Hananiga. He's just a moose running with a football. I love how hard he plays. Some great names there. Tim, thanks for joining us all season. It's been great to have you here.
Appreciate it.
All right, David and I are going to be right back with our Fab 5 picks for the Big Northern and the NUIC. Well, you saw our Nick 10 Fab 5 picks. David, let's you and I do the same thing now for the Big Northern and the NUIC.
All right, let's get to it. Here are my Fab 5 for the Big Northern we'll start with. Number 1 guy, Chandler Binkley, the conference's leading rusher and the most valuable player on the best team. This is an easy choice. You can't go wrong picking the best guy on the best team in the best conference. All right, next I'm going with Will Dutch. The numbers, they speak for themselves. The separation he had from the top guy to the second guy below him in the stats in the Big Northern was just ridiculous. Number 3, I'm going with Colin Nessler, a force for the Cogs, both offensively and defensively at fullback and at linebacker. And now this guy, Bago, might not have the best season, but Michael Cunningham, I mean, he deserves to be on this list, absolutely. A 3-way superstar for them, literally never came off the field. A running back, a DB, a kicker, he does everything for them. And not the best season for Oregon, but Daniel Dominguez, a power runner for the Hawks. He absolutely deserves to be this, just one of the best runners in the Big Northern.
All right, my top 5 in the Big Northern Conference. We are almost in agreement here. You had Binkley number 1. I had Dutch number 2. I've got Dutch 1, Binkley 2. Dutch just scares the living daylights out of defenses with his elusiveness. Not that Binkley doesn't scare defenses. Like you have Genoa's Colin Nessler 3rd, At number 4, I'm going in a different direction. I have Lutheran's fullback linebacker Jameer Pitts. He might be the strongest guy in the conference, pound for pound. And I agree with you on Dominguez of Oregon at number 5. Every opponent knew he was going to get the football, and he still ran for huge yardage almost every game.
All right, let's move on now to the NUIC. Scott, you go first.
Yeah, here's my NUIC Fab 5 in order. Quarterback Hunter Hoffman at Dupac at number 1. His teammate running back linebacker Trenton Taylor, number 2. Lee Wynn linebacker, tight end Brody Mann, number 3. Love his game. Then Forreston running back, defensive back Matthew Beltran, and Lee Wynn running back, defensive back Mari Roby. Roby probably would have been higher on this list if he had been full speed all season, but I think last week we just started to see the real Mari Roby emerge again.
All right, let's take a look at mine now. Scott, I had a feeling our number 1 and 2s would be the same. Hunter Hoffman, Trenton Taylor. They're like the Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch 1-2 combo of the NUIC. My 3 and 4, I'm going with the Panther Power runners, Mari Roby and Ethan Fye. Like you said, what Roby did this year coming off the injury was just amazing. And lastly, I've got Matthew Beltran of Forreston as well. He was a monster and a major reason the Cardinals beat Lee Wynn the first time around. We'll see if he's got a little extra gas in the tank for tomorrow as they go a second round.
Yeah, we said how hard it was to pick the next 10 Fab 5. I think it was even harder for me with the NUIC. That conference is so loaded.
And all of our picks are like almost the same as well, so that's what makes it even tougher.
This is our last overtime football show for this season, but we're going to be back in January with our basketball version of the show.
Well, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your weekend.